What is going on, Lucid fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you about the upcoming Q4 earnings. A lot of people want to know potentially where it might be going, so I'll go over my estimates of what I feel might come out of the earnings and potentially how that will affect the stock price. So I'm going to go over all the stuff you need to know. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And without further ado, let's get right to it. So in case you guys haven't participated in earnings, there is several different things that people care about: earnings per share, revenue, and future guidance. And under the future guidance aspect, that is where they're talking on basically the future, and that is going to be the most volatile part of the overall earnings, because they're going to be talking on reservation numbers, delivery numbers, and they're going to be talking on targets, they're going to be talking on gravity, they're going to be talking on so many different things. That is going to be the volatile aspect of the earnings. But when it comes down to, for instance, the simple stuff such as earnings per share and revenue, in reality, I'll just go over what the estimates are. So currently, based on 4 analysts, there is a estimate of negative 41 cents. So it is a little bit lower than all the other earnings, but keep in mind, with a ramp up in production, that is going to be very costly. So of course, earnings per share does get hurt by that. But on a positive note, every single one of their previous earnings, they've come up a little bit better than estimates, with the exception of Q2, as you can see. So at that time, the average estimate was negative 30 cents versus the actual was negative 37 cents. So just be aware of that. I do feel that at this stage in the game, a lot of people just more so care about the future guidance aspect of Lucid and kind of turned a blind eye to, for instance, earnings per share and revenue. I think as what they've been doing over the last several quarters, they just want to see that Lucid is heading in the right direction and there's no hiccups. Then in my opinion, they worry about these metrics afterwards, after everything. But I feel going forward, this might be the last earnings that they can get away with bad ratios. For instance, like I said, earnings per share and revenue. And when it comes down to revenue, as you can see, the estimate is $302.61 million, and that is based on 5 analyst estimates. And of course, on the opposite end of earnings per share, every single one of their revenue aspects over the previous earnings has been below the analyst estimates. So that might be something just to be aware of ultimately. So again, it is what it is. When it comes down to it, like I already mentioned, it is going to be the future guidance aspect of earnings. That is what everyone cares about. And what we do know at this stage in the game is this: so that they did produce 3,493 vehicles in Q4, 7,180 in the full year of 2022. So of course they did meet their targets between the 6,000 to 7,000, so definitely a very good thing. But it goes to show ultimately how important these numbers actually are, especially to investors, because when this was announced, I believe the stock price actually did go up roughly about 5% just alone, and most likely it is because that they did meet their targets. Then after that, people started to kind of look at it a little bit deeper and started to question exactly, for instance here, why did they produce 7,180 vehicles but only delivered 4,369? So that's something as well that they do have to really bring up. They kind of touched on it a little bit in Q3, but this is one thing that they do really have to kind of explain themselves. And as far as I'm aware as well, this is one of the questions that is being posed by retail. But again, it just shows the importance on the actual production targets. And when it comes down to this upcoming year, in Q3, they failed to give their guidance for 2023, which of course that kind of spooked investors a little bit. And this is the estimates that they did have from 2021. And as crappy as that sounds, this is the most known information that we do have. And at 2023, they did show still the gravity within that kind of year. They did since then move it to 2024, but they do have 36,000 for errors. So in my opinion, they need to at least do 30,000 for reservations at a bare minimum. Anything below that, so for instance, if they give 20,000 or 25,000 as their initial estimates for 2023, I think the stock price is going to go down quite heavily because of that. On the opposite end, if they do, for instance, do and say 50 or 45 or whatever that might be in that kind of range, the stock price will go up, because you do have to factor in that the phase 2 is going to be completed within the first half of 2023. So for argument's sake, June, but that definitely will be able to accommodate for a little bit more of a ramp up in errors, more specifically pure. And keeping in line with that though, there's also going to be a very heavy dependence and watching of reservation numbers. So in Q3, they did say that they had 34,000 in reservations. When they came out with that, that was very scary for a lot of investors. The stock price immediately went down because in theory, you never want reservation numbers to go down. It went from 37 down to 34,000. It is fair to assume that production and deliveries of vehicles will bring down reservations itself. But with all the studios that have been popping up in Q3, you were assuming it was going to go up. So in reality, there was similar kind of fashion, a lot more studios within Europe and also the States and Canada as well that was opening up in obviously Q4. So I do anticipate the reservation numbers to go up. If, for instance, they do go down even further than that, then that clearly shows that there is a demand issue. And I think that is ultimately what a lot of investors really want to hear, or at least what they don't want to hear when it comes down to this aspect right here. So why there isn't the full amount of produced vehicles being delivered and stuff like that. When I've brought this up in previous videos though, a lot of people say, this happens with Ford and GM and a lot of other companies, right? Which is very true. This does happen everywhere, especially with logistics and transportation and so forth. But as far as a percentage, no company, you can group every other big automaker together and it's nowhere near at the same percentage as Lucid, 60% in fact. So in general, that's something, like I said, that really needs to be addressed. But outside of production, there is some other things that they most likely, in my head at least, will bring up on their own accord. One of which is that whole rumor about the Saudi PIF wanting to take Lucid potentially private. They need to address that. Whether they just say that there's no credibility or nothing, or that maybe they're thinking about it, they need to bring that up, in my opinion. And when it comes down to the latest news that did come out a couple days ago about that partnership or strategic partnership with Aston Martin, they should in reality bring that up. But whether they do or not, who knows? But luckily enough, retail does and is given an opportunity to pose questions to management. So these are the top questions so far. So is the Saudi PIF taking Lucid private? I think in general that this should bring that up on themselves, by themselves of course. But if they don't, then yes, this is one very good question that we need to know. This is also linked to that whole delivery and production issue potentially. But there is about 2 full parking lots at the southern end of the factory. Are these vehicles pending deliveries to Saudi Arabia, Europe, overseas, or the cancellations? This is a very good question. When do reservations open up for the Gravity? Of course, the Gravity is one of the biggest things. And going back over here, it goes to show how much of a big dependence Lucid does have on the Gravity. So for instance, back when they did project Gravity in 2023, it was supposed to be 12,000 vehicles. Then you can kind of see the growth. It completely blows the air out of the water. 2024, it is estimated to have 49,000, and 86, 134,000. So the percentage that the Gravity does have as far as overall production completely blows the air out of the water. It does look like the air kind of is peaked at 42,000, and of course in 2025 this is when they do have that mid-size SUV coming down the pipeline. So again, I think that is definitely very, very positive that this is a quarter that most likely we will find out about the Gravity. Then over and above this, there is also this question: do you still expect to have positive cash flow in 2025? This was planned to be approximately 321 million in 2025. Is this still achievable? In reality, I have brought this up. I really like this question. This is actually a perfect question, but are they suited to answer this right now? Probably not. And then is there any validity or comments regarding Saudi Arabia? So that's kind of a duplication. Is Lucid going to be teaming up with Apple? I think that's also another good question at this stage in the game. I would really like to see anything as far as ESS, because the Saudis are actually bumping up their infrastructure technology to accommodate for instance, ESS, and also higher levels of technology, so higher levels of autonomous driving. So I think in general, that is something that we as investors should really find out. And then this question is about a lower price car and where it's going to be manufactured. I think that's also fairly good to know at this stage in the game. I would be very much fearful on these questions though if they fail to give any guidance. So for instance, on this in Q2 for the lower price mid-size SUV, they said by mid-decade. And then in Q3, they said later in the decade. So again, this is something that we would ideally like to have as a concrete date, at least what they have in mind. So that's my own opinion. This question I have brought up as well in the past. The Lucid shareholders are your advocates, customers, and future customers. Would it not be better for the brand to be more open, forthcoming with information about the ongoing activities for the business or of the business? And I think in general, that is one thing that we need to know. We need to be able to have you address, for instance, this rumor that's been coming out about the PIF, about, for instance, Aston Martin, about any Apple kind of connection, things like that. So I think in general, though, this whole earnings is going to have a roller coaster ride, as I've mentioned. But in reality, this might be the last earnings that is kind of a hit and miss. And of course, when I talk on hit and miss, I'm talking on this kind of issue as far as potential demand issues for certain types of vehicles, more specifically Air Grand Touring. I think that in reality is most likely a little bit more of a fail/miss. Of course, like I said, and I always say, I'm not a financial advisor, so do your own due diligence at the end of the day. But I do feel that a lot of analysts are actually sitting on the sidelines as well, waiting for instance, good earnings. And I'll show you what I mean by that. And if you do, for instance, like TipRanks, or if you guys pay for TipRanks, all you have to do, open up an account with Interactive Brokers, click on the link in the description below. It is free to sign up, and you get all of TipRanks and a lot of other good information. So this in reality is why I do have Interactive Brokers. But as you can see, good old Adam Jonas, who basically is at 48% success rate. But in general, I think a lot of analysts are very much waiting for some good earnings. Like for instance, going back to the actual production targets. So in 2023, if they, for instance, say 50, well, guess what? A lot of analysts are going to be very much upping their position and their price target, because Adam Jonas was $5. This individual right here from Citigroup was 12, CFRA was 8. Cantor Fitzgerald was 18. So I think in general, though, a lot of analysts will be very much excited and hyped up about Lucid. That most likely will be brought up from the actual retail questions, whether it be that lower price vehicle, or potentially if they do talk on the positive free cash flow in 2025, there's a lot of different options and ways that this could be a very good successful earnings. So I think in general, when it comes down to the price action and what would really move it, in reality, I think it's going to be two things. The demand issue, so if they do say that it's because of transportation costs, then I think a lot of people will be very much reassured, and the stock price should go up based on that. And also 2023 targets. So I think in general, those are the points that people are going to care about, not so much earnings per share and revenue, like I said. But once again, I could be completely wrong. Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. I have been bringing up in my last couple of videos, there's a good promo only until February the 28th. All you have to do, sign up, open up an account, and you get one free stock. Simple as that. Even if you just open up an account, each stock is valued up to $2,000. And if you want to throw $100 at it, then you get 4 free additional stocks. But sign up, it's a no-brainer, very simple to do. But with all that said, I appreciate you guys watching, and let's all make a lot of money on Lucid.